Welcome back to HVAC Schematics. We are now on part 19 as we continue our journey through different types of air conditioning schematics. As I've been doing all along, we're going to build upon the last schematic we used. So this is actually building upon the schematic found in part 18 where we added fan cycling control or a low ambient control to the outdoor unit. Now, in many higher end residential as well as commercial systems, we actually have two stages of cooling. What this means is that we do not run the system at full capacity if it isn't required. This is an energy savings device, and we only run the system at full capacity if full capacity is needed. So if you take a look at this second page here where I have the indoor unit and the thermostat, you will see that I added a new terminal. Okay, I have a Y2 terminal, and actually I want to switch these around. Okay, I'm going to make the Y1 the bottom one, and I'm going to make the Y2 the top one. The way this thermostat is set up, Y1 is called initially. That's going to be our first stage of cooling. Okay, and then if the system does not cool the space down and the temperature continues to rise, it's actually going to call Y2 in. So we might have a thermostat that has a Y1 and a Y2 connection. You'll see this on a lot of digital thermostats. So what we have, we still have to maintain our 2 outdoor. So I'm just going to copy this. Okay, and I'm going to put that right, and that isn't where I wanted it, so let's do this. But where I want it is I'm going to copy it. Yeah, undo. Okay, so I'm actually going to go back to my single page view here, and I'm going to copy it because I want it here. Okay, so my Y1 and my Y2 both are going to be field wired to the outdoor unit. Now, I am going to change a label here because I want to make sure we specify where it's going to, because my terminals are going to also have an indoor Y, an outdoor Y, and Y1. Okay, so that's the only change that really happens on the inside side of the equipment. I have a Y1 and a Y2 terminal on my thermostat. So now if I go to my outside side, let's take care of the control voltage first. I absolutely need to basically duplicate this. And I'm just going to move that one up just so that I have room to grab this. And I didn't get that all, so let me... Much better. Now, we know our first one is going to come from Y1, okay, because we've already established that. So I'm going to put in Y2 there. Okay, and because I can't have controls labeled identically, okay, because we have to have everything labeled differently, I'm basically going to make now a second control circuit. Okay, now, in the outdoor unit, there's two ways to deal with this. We're going to deal with it first with a second compressor, okay, because we can't have two complete refrigeration circuits that are independent of each other, or we can have a solenoid that closes when we have this situation going on. So, but most often on commercial equipment, okay, you will see this, where we just have a replication. Actually, that isn't what I wanted. Let's go back. where we replicate the circuit 1 with a second circuit. Okay, so if I'm going to go change my labels, because I have to make sure that and let me get to this label. Put it back in place. And I know it's a pain to go back and change all the labels, but it's just easier in the long run when you're trying to follow things through. Okay, so let's talk about sequence of operation here. Thermostat calls for cooling. It's going to energize my outdoor C1 circuit. Okay, my C1 is going to close my C1 coil is going to close the contactor C1 and C1 and energize my compressor and my condenser fan motor. That operates as we've talked about in the prior circuits. Then, if the space continues to heat up or does not cool properly because the load conditions are too high, could be outdoor temperature, could be what's going on in the space, but eventually my Y2 is going to, my R to Y2 is going to close. Okay, lots of ways that can happen. But the bottom line is that I'm going to now energize my C2 coil, which is going to kick on my second compressor and my second condenser fan motor. And therefore, we'll now have 2 stages of cooling running at the same time. Now, there's variations of this you're going to find. We might kick on all the condenser fan motors at the same time based on the first compressor coming on. We could have interlocks around here that C1 has to be running before C2 runs. So again, every schematic is going to be a little bit different. Now, the other thing that I mentioned is sometimes we don't do it with a second compressor. So let me save this one, and I'm going to show you how we might do it with a 24-volt solenoid. Okay, so let me just save this, and then I'm going to do a save as, because I want to. I'm going to say with solenoid. I'm seeing this a lot more on a lot of residential units. Okay, a lot of the higher end residential units. We don't anymore have this all this way. Okay, we take that back out of there, delete all of that. And my C2 circuit has one pretty small change in it. Okay, instead of using just a relay coil, okay, we have a solenoid. What this solenoid does, it's actually an electromechanical device that's inside the compressor that when it's not energized, it's allowing some refrigerant to bypass the compression cycle. When we energize it, it closes that bypass and forces the compressor to pump 100% of the refrigerant. So this is just another way to do it, that you can use one compressor that is sized to the maximum load required. Now remember, as we have a compressor that's moving lower amounts of refrigerant, that compressor will run at a lower amperage than if we have it under full load. So by using a normally open bypass solenoid in that compressor, I'm actually cutting the load of the cooling system. Okay, cutting the amperage requirement, thus cutting the power consumed, thus lowering the energy bills of that compressor. So what I would do is I'd also change that label just to be, okay, it's no longer, I'm going to label it compressor solenoid. Okay, and again, on the indoor portion, this is all identical. Okay, we still have a Y1 and Y2, but again, all we're doing on the Y2 is we are closing a solenoid that's internal to the compressor. So that's somewhat of how we can do capacity control electronically. There's mechanical means to do it as well, but electronically this actually is how more and more equipment is doing it.